Now, when you first become president, one of the questions that people ask you is, what's really going on at Area 51?
Can you verify the position, the opening I ought to have on the camera?
Mention we have a breaking news story to tell you about. Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City. It happened just...
Command override off.
We're out. Dumble, we understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan.
He tried through Congress and the Senate to bring about change, and then wrote a book, which the CIA tried to stop.
Now, Richard Hack, thank you very much. We appreciate the book as well. We're going to go live right now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center.
Victor Marquette was the special assistant to the director of the CIA, and was one of the men behind the Pine Gap Agreement.
The plane has crashed into the World Trade Center, New York, 8:52 with limited
Amber and I, we both worked in New York for about 2.5 years, both as accountants. She worked on the 105th floor of the North Tower. Yeah, on that fateful day, I felt a little sick, so I decided not to come in. Unfortunately, she went in. I remember early in the morning, it was about 9 AM. I remember getting a phone call from Amber. There wasn't much I could hear, just screams, crashes, explosions. And then all I could hear from her is, we've been attacked. There's an explosion. I couldn't make out much else. I just remember running to the TV and switching on the news. Plastered everywhere. I just sat there in shock and awe. I stayed on the phone with her for as long as I could, but it wasn't long enough. That's when the South Towers hit. Amber told me she was going to put me on hold so she'd call 911. She was going to be right back. I waited for over an hour. I just remember. I still remember my heart sinking as I saw the North Tower collapsing. I still think about her all the time. And I still mourn over the people who lost their lives that day. To this day, I still think about what goes through someone like Osama bin Laden's head to do such a thing. To kill so many people in such a short amount of time. It makes me sick. I'm glad he's dead.
On September 11th, 2001, 19 Al-Qaeda members hijacked 4 United States passenger airliners. One of them crash landing in a rural field in Pennsylvania, another crashing into the western side of the Pentagon, and the last 2 crashing into the World Trade Center in New York. The attacks on the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001 went down in history as the worst attack on American soil. After the attacks, the President of the United States at the time, George W. Bush, revealed to the world that Osama bin Laden, the leader of the terrorist group Al-Qaeda, owned up to being behind the attacks. From then onwards, the world turned against the people of Afghanistan. However, after many suspicious pieces of evidence, or lack of, people began speculating that maybe the attacks were organised not by bin Laden, but by the ones who pointed the blame towards him. The American government.
There's just too much evidence pointing towards the fact that the attack on the Twin Towers was an inside job. One of the main points is that in the footage of the attack, when we see the plane strike the North Tower, we see the nose of the plane come out the other side. Now, to the normal eye, this seems understandable, right? However, if you look at the nose of a Boeing 747, any damage to that will completely ruin the structural integrity of it. You see, the nose of the plane is completely hollow, and you'll see this on various images online. You'll see bird strikes creating significant damage to the nose of the plane. So, how on earth can the nose of the Boeing 747 appear on the other side of the building completely undamaged after striking a building made of steel and concrete, such as that of the Twin Towers? It's unfathomable. How can you explain that?
Victor Marchetti was the special assistant to the director of the CIA and was one of the men behind the Pine Gap Agreement.
We had already developed electronic satellites for picking up all kinds of radio
Pine Gap,
signals and
located 18 kilometers southwest of Alice Springs, is a joint defense facility operated both by the United States and Australia. Agencies such as the NSA, CIA, and NRO also help partially run the dominantly American-run facility. In 1966, US-AUS Joint Defense Space Research Facility was established, stating that Pine Gap was being used for space research. In 1999, the Australian government refused to give details to the Australian Senate regarding the facility. Subsequently, the 2 satellites that were initially agreed on in the treaty had grown to 14. Professor Dave Ball of the Australian National University described the station as being ground control for US satellites engaged in signal intelligence collection. Ball states that there are 3 main operations occurring at Pine Gap: satellite station keeping, signals processing, and signals analysis, in which, since 1980, Australia has been excluded from interacting with them all.
What is it? Do you trust the government?
To be honest, I don't inform myself enough about it because I'm leaving in a couple of years for another country anyway, so I'm not too tied in with the politics and whatnot.
No, not at all. I don't trust them at all, really.
I don't know, I've been a bit off and on, sorry. Yeah, it's not too sure.
So have you heard there's an installation in Central Australia known as Pine Gap? Have you heard of it?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
No idea.
I've heard of it, don't really know what it is though.
If I were to tell you it's US owned, it's used by the US for surveillance, and Australia has very little access to it, how would you feel?
Kind of cheated, really. I mean, it's on Australian soil.
Sick, really. I can't believe something like that actually exists.
Not really. I mean, obviously, Australia should keep to. They have to keep their alliance and whatnot, in my opinion. So, although Trump's a bit of a cooker, but I guess they keep it there to keep that alliance and keep that friendship if a war was to break out and whatnot. But at the end of the day, is it really needed?